Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. Today will be a video about my favourite concept albums. Now this is going to have to be a two-part video because when I was coming up with all my favourite concept albums it was like around 20 or so. So I'm going to do 10 this week and 10 next week. This week's are going to be more older prog and next week's are going to be more modern prog from like mid-80s onwards. So you have that to look forward to, you know, with more modern prog being spoken about next week and some familiar albums this week. Some of them are albums that I don't currently own, that I want to own, and I'll just be talking about them. I'll put a picture of the album next to me here while I talk about it. And just one thing before I start, I am very sorry that I didn't post yesterday. I woke up and I just really did not feel like uploading, and I didn't want to force myself to upload because if I did that then the quality of the video would then lack, and yeah, I don't want to be grumpy throughout the video. I don't want to feel like I have to force myself to make videos. So I just took it easy and wrote out my albums for today. So that's what I was doing yesterday and I am now back. I'm ready for today's video and hopefully you guys are too. So concept albums. If you're not familiar with what a concept album is, it's basically an album that tells a story through music. So you'll have songs that relate to a theme, and there's a lot that a lot of people are familiar with, and there's some that maybe people are less familiar with, so I will be talking about that today. So let's start. So I'm going to go through in like chronological order, just by year, not by month and year, just by the year. So the first one I have here is Three Friends by Gentle Giant. This is probably one of my favourite albums at the moment, purely because I love the concept and it's kind of hitting me at the moment. Because of the concept, the idea of the concept, it's, you know, really hard hitting for me at the moment. If you don't know what this album's about, it's about three friends who all like knew each other from a young age, and as they got older they just started drifting apart from each other, and because they had their own lives to be living, and there's a cliffhanger at the end of the album that's like, do they ever reunite with each other or do they not? Which is an interesting concept, and the reason that hits home quite a lot is because I'm 19 now, and you know when you're at school you'll make friends with people and you'll say, oh, I'm gonna know you forever, I'm gonna know you when I'm older, and then, you know, you're so busy with your lives, you know, you have your own life, you got a job, you've got your own stuff to be doing, and you just end up not knowing these people anymore and you just drift away from each other. I've kind of been having that at the moment with some of my friends. You know, I just have drifted apart from them and it's sad, because you have so many good memories with these people and then you just end up not knowing them in the future, and that's why this album hits quite a lot, quite a spot in my soul, if you could call it. But this is a brilliant record told through music, and my favourite tracks on this are probably the prologue, the actual intro of the album. I love School Days, Working All Day. School Days purely because it reminds me of my school days. And I think they actually mentioned in the lyrics that, you know, it's talking about how you're going to know people forever, and you actually don't end up knowing a lot of people forever. You make your own friends along the way. So that's the first one. Next up we have Thick as a Brick by Jethro Tulle. This is one that all of you are going to be familiar with, and when it comes to concept albums, this one's actually like a parody of a concept album, so it's like taking the piss out of concept albums pretty much, but it's still a great album and told through music. I've got the meaning up here next to me, that's why I'm looking at. So this isn't obviously the original packaging and I don't have the original one, but the original album folded out like a newspaper, which I thought was really cool, and it's meant to be like an adaptation of a poem written by this kid, and obviously the lyrics are written by Ian Anderson, not this random kid that they're talking about in the music, or what that he's been writing about in the music. But the music's great, love it a lot, and I like how it's a take on a concept album, how they're taking the piss out of concept albums pretty much, because everyone thought that Aqualung was a concept album when it's not actually a concept album, because I've watched several interviews with them saying, well, guys, it's not a concept album, so that they made this, which is like a take on a concept album, and I love this album a lot, one that you're probably all familiar with. And actually talking about this album, in my last video, which was, in my video, not the Saturdays with Dad, I was talking about albums of 1972, someone commented, where's Thick as a Brick? And Thick as a Brick was like the second or third album that I talked about in that video, so someone wasn't paying attention. But yes, great album. and I definitely did include it in my video because I started panicking. I was like, did I not include Thick as a Brick? Whoopsie. So I was going to mention it at the beginning of this video, and then I thought, well, wait, yes I did. Of course I was going to mention this in my 1972 video, and odd, I don't understand why someone just didn't watch that whole section of the video that I talked about that album. So the third one we have is 666 by Aphrodite's Child. This is actually more of a biblical meaning concept album, which is very interesting to me because when I studied religious studies I was weirdly interested in it as someone who doesn't really believe in God that much. Learning about other people's religion, other religions out there, learning more about them was interesting to me. So this is actually a take on the Book of Revelations, Revelation. It's brilliant. It's like the Bible told through music. It's fantastic. Told through Prog, of course. And it kind of shows, you know, it's very apocalyptic in a way as well. It's very great, and I love it a lot. Don't have any favourite tracks on this album. If I had to pick one, it'd be The Four Horsemen, but it's a loosely religious themed album, which is very cool in my opinion. Yeah, stuff about religion is always interesting to me, especially when it comes to music, because you have things like this, and then you have Jethro Tulle, who write about a lot of anti-religion themes, which is something that's interesting to me, but I'll probably talk about that when I talk about Aqualung later on. That is a great album, one that I'm recently introduced to, and I hope that I got the meaning right, because this is what I've looked up online, so if I'm wrong, let me know, but I think that is such a great concept for an album. So next up I have here the Six Wives of Henry VIII. Now I know Rick Wigman also did this. This is Journey to the Centre of the Earth, but I'm going to talk about this one because I'm more familiar with this one. Obviously this is a concept album. It's quite obvious that it is. I mean, it says in the title The Six Wives of Henry VIII. It's literally the story of the Six Wives of Henry VIII told through music, which is a fantastic concept and fantastic music to go along with it. I did a review of this one on my recent Wednesday reviews, so if you've not checked that out, then take a look. I go in depth into this album and my thoughts and feelings. I love this album a lot. I love the concept. It's great I love historical meanings, if that makes any sense. I like that something, because I studied history at GCSE and it was something that I really liked, but I didn't have a very good teacher, which made me almost fail the subject. But history was something I was always interested in, and especially this type of history, Old England, Tudor times, something that I was always interested in, which is something I learned about more in primary school than secondary, but this is very good. This is a very good album, very good concept, very good musical adaptation, and one that I highly recommend if you haven't listened to it. But as I said, he also has Journey to the Centre of the Earth, which is also a concept album, so I'll probably talk about that at a later time, but that one's my favourite out of those two. Next up, we have Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes. Now, I had no idea that Yes did a concept album until I researched into this. This one had a very complex meaning behind it. I found it hard to remember all of it, but it's a very spiritual record. I mean, I know each track is named after some form of spiritual meaning. You know what, I'll look it up now and I'll tell you. So it says here that John Anderson devised this concept record through reading a book, an autobiography, which describes 4 bodies of Hindu texts. So that is very interesting, very complex, and something I probably would not have remembered. So it's stuff about knowledge, and I love that, and you can kind of see that through the music, because this is quite a complex record, especially when it comes to the music. It's 20 minutes, each track is 20 minutes of just pure instrumental genius. I mean, it's not instrumental, but the instrumentation is very complex, very interesting, and very intriguing, so no wonder that it's got a concept like that, because that is unbelievably interesting, and I might do some more research into that after I finish this video, the recording. But this is a great record. The first track on this album is probably my favourite. It's such a great way to enter into the album. So yeah, I know I like the 3rd and 4th track as well, but I think the first one is my favourite. And this particular copy is the Steven Wilson remix. I do have the original down here somewhere. And I'm very much a fan of the Steven Wilson Yes remixes, which I'm planning to do a video about because a lot of people have been asking me, well, how is it different to the original remasterings, and is it better, is it worse? I will tell you guys my opinions on that in maybe a different video if I do a whole video about that. So the next album is one that I don't actually own on vinyl just yet, but it is El Dorado by Electric Light Orchestra, or as known, ELO. This is the only, I think one of the only ELO albums I've heard Out of the Blue, I think that's the name of the album. And but this one is more of a progressive-y kind of album. I love the plot of this one. It basically is about someone who goes into a journey through like a dream world to kind of escape the harsh reality of the world, and that's obviously told through music. And that's almost like a similar thing to The Wall, but less in-depth, I guess. But this is a great record, great musical arrangements, especially the classical element of the album with the orchestra and stuff like that. Fantastic album, and one I don't think I've mentioned much about them on my channel, but I do like a lot of their songs, a lot of their albums as well, albums that I want to listen to at some point, but I'm hoping to get this record at some point because it's got a fantastic concept and it's just a fantastic record all around. So the next one we have is one that I really need to listen to more, and that is Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis. This is a fantastic record, one that I've only heard 2 or 3 times, but I'm planning on doing a review of it at some point. This is, I think, their only concept album that they made, but I could be wrong. But this is a very great record. It's very long, but a lot of the tracks aren't outrageously long. So it's a long album. It's got a similar structure to The Wall, and the fact that there's a lot of kind of 1 to 1.5 minute tracks in between longer tracks that lead into those tracks, if that makes any sense. But that'll come later. This is a fantastic album. The concept of this record is about a Puerto Rican young boy who goes into New York City and meets all these people, goes on a journey through kind of self-discovery, and meets all these people, goes through all these experiences, and I think that's such a cool concept. It was actually devised by Peter Gabriel. So this is the last album, I believe, I know, the last album with Peter Gabriel as frontman of Genesis, and what a kind of way to exit the band with an album like this. This is a fantastic one that if you've not heard, which I guarantee you have, all you prog fans out there who like Genesis have probably heard this record, but I urge you to listen to it if you haven't already. And I know I've got a lot of viewers who have told me, oh, you've helped me get into prog and listen to more of it, and to those people I definitely suggest this one. If you're a fan of the same structure as The Wall and albums such as The Wall, then this one will be one for you. So next is another album that I don't currently own, but this is Camel's music inspired by the Snow Goose. Now, just the name itself, inspired by, just gives away the concept completely. It's based on the novel The Snow Goose, and this is a fantastic record filled with a lot of orchestral accompaniment, great musicians. I believe it's completely instrumental, if I'm not wrong, and it's absolutely beautiful record, one that I really need to get because I loved it when I heard it. I'm a big fan of Camel. I've been getting into their stuff a lot recently. My favourite of theirs at the moment is Moon Madness, which came after this album, and I just think their sound is so beautiful. I don't know how to describe it. It's just flows so nicely, and just everything about it. It's pure prog, pure brilliant prog, and if you've not heard any Camel yet, which I'm sure that a lot of you have, then Moon Madness or Mirage are ones to definitely check out, and even the first record, but The Snow Goose is a great record and one I need to get urgently because I loved it so much, and I love bands that can do just pure instrumentals without it being drawn out, without it being boring or anything like that. So this album is great for those people who like just 45-50 minutes of just pure instrumental and pure prog. That's all I have to say about it. I love it a lot. Next up, 2112 by Rush. This is one I think a lot of you guys are going to be familiar with. And this is their first introduction to the proper side of progressive rock, because you had their first 3 albums which started to get more proggy as time went on. Not their first album, that's purely a hard rock record, but Fly By Night had its proggy aspects, and then there was Caress of Steel, which has its even more proggy aspects, and then there's 2112, which just features the 20-minute long epic 2112 broken into I think 5 or 6 parts. And this is very much like a science fiction based concept album. I'm still trying to work out what the actual concept of the album is, because the lyrics are so well written, but in a way that's like, you need to figure this out for yourself. You know, you gotta listen to it and interpret it in your own way, which I thought was very interesting. And this definitely put them back out onto the scene, the music scene, in the late 70s, because Caress of Steel, as you guys know, wasn't commercially successful as their previous works, but then 2112 came along and said, you know what, let's put these guys back out, and they made this record, which is absolutely fantastic. My favourite tracks, obviously 2112, the epic is just in and of itself my favourite track, but if I had to pick something from side 2, I'd probably pick Tears, because the first time I heard that I cried. I'd been through quite a rough patch when I first heard this album, so hearing this was like a breath of fresh air, and it made me think, well, maybe life isn't so terrible after all. But this is a very, very great album, one that I hold very dearly to my heart, because it got me into prog in a way, and great concept. Great concept, great songwriting, and obviously great musicianship from these 3 great musicians. So the last album I'll be talking about today is one that I think might have been suggested by you guys, but I'd heard about it ages ago. I liked one song off it, and I just hadn't rediscovered it until recently. I re-listened to it last night, and I thought, right, this has to be in here. And that is Ocean by Eloy. If you're not familiar with Eloy, they are a German progressive rock band of the 70s, and definitely one that didn't get as much success as they should have got, because they're a fantastic group. I love their music so much. So this particular album has a great cover, first of all, absolutely brilliant cover, and it's a concept about Atlantis, the missing city of Atlantis. I know a lot about that through SpongeBob, because I'm a big SpongeBob fan. Well, I used to be, and still kind of am. Lost City of Atlantis, and its kind of demise. So how it was breaking down, sinking, and threatening humanity and all that kind of stuff, which is such an in-depth and detailed concept, which is absolutely brilliant. Great musicians, great concept, great album artwork, and my favourite track of this is Poseidon's Creation, which actually opens up the album. And I think the first time I heard that, I was like, I need more of this. I need to hear more of this. I think this was just as I was getting back into prog again, and I think that track was on a prog playlist on Spotify, and the cover intrigued me, and so I listened to the music and I thought, wow, I need to buy this. But I don't currently own it at the moment, so hopefully I will change that very soon. But this is a great record, one that if you've not heard of, check it out. So that is the end of today's video. Sorry if I seem a bit all over the place. It's just concept albums. Especially progressive rock concept albums can be quite hard to grasp, and reading over some of the concepts of these records, I had to keep looking back at my computer to make sure I wasn't mistaking anything or getting anything wrong. But if I've got anything wrong, just politely let me know in the comments. Again, sorry about yesterday, not uploading. I was just very, very tired, and I don't want to make a video. I want to force myself to make a video, otherwise it takes the fun out of the channel, and that's kind of what my channel is. It's just a bit of fun, really, for me, and a way to talk to new people about prog and share my love of prog and vinyl as well. But if you haven't seen, I've got a new upload schedule, which I've posted on my community page, so that's going to be my new upload schedule. When I do schedules, it really helps me focus more. A lot of you guys were saying, well, don't stress yourself with schedules, it just makes it worse. Personally, I'm great with schedules, so if I have a clear plan of what kind of stuff I'm going to be uploading on certain days, really relieves my tension. It's like a stress relief that's like, okay, so this is the kind of video I'm going to make today. And so I'm not struggling for what to make and it's not all over the place. So Mondays are going to be about prog, Wednesdays are just going to be my reviews, that's going to stay the same. Fridays are going to be vinyl community related videos, anything to do with vinyl really. And Saturdays are of course Saturdays with Dad. So Sunday I will start taking off, and Tuesday and Thursdays I already take off anyway. Tuesdays I usually write my reviews for Wednesday because I've written my reviews on the Wednesday morning and it's very stressful, so I usually write my reviews on Tuesdays to save that kind of early morning stress. So Wednesday's video will be a review, and I'm now going to check the poll that I put up last Wednesday on what album you guys want me to talk about, and I was thinking that a lot of you guys were against me talking about Dark Side of the Moon and stuff like that because it's been talked about so much, which I really do understand. So I'm probably going to pick one of the lesser known prog bands, and I think that I'm going to go for Nuclear Nightclub by Wigman, which is one that I know a lot of you guys have not heard of, and it was one that I discovered through someone talking about prog on YouTube, talking about underrated albums. So I'm probably going to talk about that one because it got the least amount of votes, because it's probably the least well known on the list. And yeah, so that will give you guys some new music to listen to. And I will see you guys on Wednesday. So I'll write my review up tomorrow and talk to you guys on Wednesday. See you then. Bye bye.